Hello and welcome to Owen the Town. This is our weekly preview show looking ahead to Burnley v Luton Town happening tomorrow at Turf Moor. Can't wait. Days with me. Unfortunately, again, no Batara this week. I think he's just, he's got a little one now and he's just a busy boy. Sorry, Dave. Go on then.
He is a busy man.
Yeah.
We miss him when he's not here. We'll make sure he's here next week, hopefully.
I'm really excited for tomorrow. It's my first game of the season. Haven't been at work last week, so what a better way. Burnley away. It's going to be a tough one, but looking forward to it. Bit
of a trip. To be fair, it's a long journey, but it should be fun. I'm looking forward to seeing how we come up against a former Premier League team.
We're going to be chatting to Tom from the No Name Never podcast in a bit. He's a Burnley supporter and hopefully fill us in everything Burnley. They did look very good on television last week. They kicked off the season in style against Huddersfield. Did you see any of that game last week?
I didn't see it live. I watched some of the highlights back and Burnley look formidable, don't they? I thought they are very strong. They was very quick. And to think that we played Huddersfield in the playoffs not so long ago, I thought they struggled at times. But what do you expect? Burnley's first game in this division, they don't want to stay here, do they? I
was going to say, do you think, because obviously Huddersfield lost some important players, obviously they lost their manager as well, could it be that performance where maybe, Huddersfield were poor and Burnley looking good? Would you say even Burnley maybe a bit overrated?
No, not at all. Burnley are not overrated. I think we should get that one right out of our system. They are a former Premier League team, and they weren't just there for one season, were they? They were for a long time. Okay, they may have struggled for a couple of seasons, but they stayed up. There is no way you should underestimate that team.
And the squad they've put together now, I think they said in Sky last weekend, 9 debutants or something against Huddersfield they made, and you look at the money they've spent as well, 4 million on Scott Twine, I think, and the lad from Oxford's come in, so they've been buying players, and
well, they're looking to go straight back up, aren't they? They're not wanting to stay in this division more than one season. They hope that they get straight back up auto. I'm sure of that. And the money spending, well, what do you expect? Parachute payments are there. We saw that last season with Fulham and the like, and you've seen it with the likes of the amount of money that Bournemouth were able to spend. And it's something that we have to contend with these days, isn't it, in this division?
What are you expecting from us against Burnley tomorrow?
I think we should be quite strong and resolute. I think we're going to be finding it very tough. We'll be looking to catch them on the break, I would say. We need to defend stronger than we have. And if we come away with a point, I'll be very happy.
Yeah. I think it's going to be one of them games, isn't it, where it's going to be, if you can stay in it for as long as possible, maybe as time goes on, if you're getting into 65, 70th minute, you got the 5 subs, maybe you can bring on an attacking player and potentially go and nick a goal, or if we're chasing a goal, I think it's important not to concede early, and if you do not concede a second.
Not concede early is bang on, because if we're up against it from minute 5 or 6, then then it's a tough one. However, having said that, if we score, that might open things up a bit more, and there's no reason why we can't score there. I mean, let's not underestimate our own team, but it's going to be a tough ask. But the players will be up for it.
Last week on Sky, when Burnley played Huddersfield, I think the stats said Burnley had over 500 passes completed, which was more than any game in the Premier League they had last season. Do you reckon this is because of Vincent Kompany? And look, I'm be interested to hear Tom's opinion on this when we get on in a minute. That he's clearly come in, he's clearly a different manager as well to what they've had in the past in Sean Dyche. And it's this new style of Burnley, this new era of Burnley.
I would agree with that. I think you can look at how Kompany used to play and you would know straight away that that's the sort of thing you want to do. Sean Dyche, for me, when I looked at Burnley then, I just thought they were physical. I thought they were defence first, if I'm honest. But I stand to be corrected if that's not true.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Because as a fan that doesn't watch Burnley every single week, you do get that perception that under Sean Dyche, it was this very defensive, defend first kind of thing, and route one, and not like Neil Warnock and stuff, but kind of similar in the way that old school style of play. And it feels like Kompany's come in, and look, Burnley fans, correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like Kompany's come in and it's kind of like a new style of, look, we've got great players here. Let's zip it around the pitch.
Let's get between
the lines and get up the field.
And make that. And to be fair, surely that's his influence. If it isn't, then what's changed apart from that? Apart from the manager, not a lot has changed.
Well, shall we speak to the man who's going to know it all? Tom from the No Name Never podcast joins us on our podcast tonight to review Burnley v Luton. Tom, how are you, mate?
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me. Yeah, very well, thank you. You are too?
Yeah, all good, mate. Look, we watched Burnley live on Sky Sports last week. They kicked off the championship season. Burnley looked really good. What was the mood around the Burnley fans after that game?
Yeah, I think normally when you're relegated in a bit of a limp fashion as we were last season, normally the mood in the next season, you're going into it, you're under a bit of a cloud. Especially we've sold a lot of our best players, but there has been quite a lot of optimism around the place. Obviously, new manager, a lot of new faces, and people getting quite excited, I guess, at the prospect of not getting battered by Man City every week. I think the mood was quite good. When the team came out, everyone was a little bit surprised. There was a couple of omissions, a couple of players playing in positions that you wouldn't normally see them. But as soon as we kicked off, the performance was really fantastic. I think we're all expecting new managers, so many new players, a completely different style of play. I think we were expecting to take a bit of time to get going, but the performance was brilliant. And Huddersfield obviously had a great season last season, as you know, and we really played them off the park. It was men against boys at times, especially in that first half. So, yeah, the mood coming off that game, I think, is, and it was fairly optimistic anyway, but I think Burnley fans are really, really impressed by what we saw, and I think that there's a lot more optimism for the rest of the season now after witnessing that performance.
Do you think that's down to your new manager? So since Kompany's come along, he's changed how you play compared to when you had Sean Dyche in charge?
Yeah, and it's not just little tweaks here and there. We've gone from one end of the spectrum to the other. I mean, obviously a lot has been made down the years of Sean Dyche's style of play. It wasn't always as bad as it's portrayed, and when you're a team like we were in the Premier League for so many years on with a fraction of the budget of the majority of our opponents, you've got to find ways to win, and it certainly wasn't always pretty. But we've gone from sort of a team that plays a low block, doesn't want much of the ball, very direct front to back, completely the opposite in one summer. A lot of the personnel has changed, which has made that easier. But to get that kind of passing performance out of some of those players, it was incredible. And like I said, I really thought it was going to take a bit of time. It's a difficult change to implement. It's a complete 180-degree flip. But we were like the championship equivalent of Man City on Friday. It was fantastic.
Yeah, wow. Is it better to watch? Obviously, you're really enjoying that first dip back in this division.
Yeah, it's a funny one, because a lot of our fans, and especially with the fact that we had Dyche for so many years, a lot of them were growing a bit tired of the football. It was a bit stale. Myself, I wasn't as much of a critic of the style of play as others, but I think the general mood in the fan base was that when he was sacked, although it came as a big shock, there was positives to take from it as well, and the style of play is one of them. And myself, I'm not a big fan always of the kind of slow play out from the back possession football. I prefer a little bit more direct, but they balance the elements of directness and possession really, really well. And, I wasn't expecting amazing things from this season. I was a little bit hesitant, but honestly, everyone that I've spoken to about the game since, I've just been gushing. I was blown away by how good the football was. And, obviously, being at a lower level helps, slightly less difficult opponents. We're probably one of the bigger teams in terms of budget this season, but it was really good to watch. I was really, really impressed.
I guess in the Premier League as well, it gets a bit samey when it's that same style of play every single week. And like you said, you go into Man City, and realistically, what can you expect apart from maybe to hold on to 0-0 as long as possible? But yeah, I guess for you guys coming down to the Championship, and it's this whole new fresh start, a new era under a new manager, it must be quite exciting and something different for Burnley fans this season.
Yeah, that's it. I think, the first year or two you're in the Premier League, it's all new, it's exciting. All these grounds that you only get to see on the TV, players that you only see on the TV. But once you've been doing it, I mean, we were there for 6 years, the last spell, and once you've done it year in, year out, and your only aim really is to finish 17th, it can get a bit samey. And perhaps there's a bit of, it can be a bit more fun perhaps to be, a fan of a sort of things you're up and down quite a lot. And they get to seasons of highs as well as seasons of lows. And, we certainly had a season of a lot of lows last year. So, yeah, I think if you're a glass half full kind of person, you say, well, at least we're going to see more wins hopefully than this season than we did last season. And we'll see a few more goals. And And if the football is like it was on Friday, then yeah, I'm optimistic, definitely.
When you say optimistic, in general, do you think Burnley fans are expecting an immediate return to the Premier League? Do you think that you're looking for automatic promotion? And I'm not saying it's a given, but it's a very strong case, isn't it, when you come down with those parachute payments?
Yeah, I think the league has got more and more like that in recent years. Like I say, Norwich and Watford, two obvious examples. Fulham last year, the budget was just blowing other teams out of the water. I think there is a real gap now starting to develop between haves and have-nots in terms of parachute payments.
Yeah.
I think we saw last year, like I said, I think of the three promoted teams, I think Sheffield United weren't particularly good for a lot of the season. They still made the playoffs. Fulham, like I say, ran away with it. And I think, when you look at the league, if you have got parachute money, then you've got a very clear advantage, because if you look at the teams that occupied the top 6 slots last year, yourselves and Huddersfield, not teams with big budgets. And you'd say, a team, we've sold a lot of players, but we have spent some money as well. And realistically, if you do it on a sort of points per money spent basis, we should be finishing in that top 6. I don't necessarily say it was expectation, because I think all Burnley fans recognise that it's a big turnover this summer and there's a lot that's changed. And the noises coming out of the club are sort of, there's no pressure on us to get promoted this year. But I think having seen that opening fixture, and when you think, I know Huddersfield have lost the manager and some key players, but when you think they were a top 6 team last season, we really made them look very, very ordinary. So I think the expectation probably has increased just on the basis of that one performance.
Well, obviously Burnley coming down from the Premier League, like you said, Huddersfield top 6 team, but so were we last season. So, looking at them first 2 games for you guys, they are 2 tough games. But are Burnley fans looking at Luton at home, I guess on paper, and going, this is a game we should be winning? Or, how are Burnley fans feeling about us coming to Turf Moor? Because I don't think we're going to be any pushovers here. We are going to make it a tough game for you guys.
Yeah, 100%. I think you'd certainly be more difficult opponents than Huddersfield, I think, because you've had that continuity. I think Naismith's probably the only big departure for yourselves, I'd say.
Yeah.
So that the core of that team that was so good last season is still there. Like I say, Huddersfield lost the manager as well as a couple of key players. So yeah, I don't think there's any expectation that it's going to be easy. I think most of us, the manager as well, said when we looked at the fixtures, the first 3 on paper, it was a difficult start. Huddersfield and yourselves, 2 of the playoff teams, and then the other team from down the road in Hertfordshire.
Well, you can do them.
Relegated last season. I mean, we were much, much better than them last season, I have to say that. But, it's another team with the parachute payments and the big budget like ourselves. So, yeah, I think everyone was realistic that it was going to be a difficult start. I think we were all pleasantly surprised by the performance against Huddersfield. But I think it's difficult to gauge how much of it was that we were really good and how much of it was that Huddersfield were really bad. And I do think you'll pose a much sterner test than they did.
And we recruited quite well, so I'm looking forward to coming up. What do you think is going to happen, Sally? What do you think the result's going to be? I know it's a hard one to answer because we're all quite partisan, aren't we?
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how we'd react if we conceded, I think, because the Huddersfield game, we took the lead fairly early in the game and then we just kept the ball after that, and it was really difficult for Huddersfield to come up with answers because we just didn't have any ball. And I could see similar on Saturday. If we get the first goal, we're keeping the ball well, then I think we're showing that we'll set up to hold on to a lead pretty effectively in that way. If we go 1-0 down, of course, it's an unknown. And I think what our big problem was that we weren't very ruthless in attack. We've strengthened the midfield a lot. We've replaced a lot of the back line. But in the wide positions and up front, we've sold really without recruiting. Weghorst has gone, McNeil has gone, but we haven't bought any attackers yet. Yeah. And the only 2 centre forwards we've got, Rodriguez and Barnes, they're both kind of pushing retirement age. They're both a bit over the hill, and Rodriguez wasn't even fit for the game on Friday. So I think we'll struggle to score goals. So I think if you guys take the lead, if you get the first goal and then you dig in, it's going to be difficult for us to pass around you and break down. So I can see it being a draw very easily, and I wouldn't be massively disappointed with that result either.
I think we said in the intro of this, don't concede early for us, and if we can maybe just stay in the game for as long as possible, maybe get to 65, 70 minutes and maybe just be 0-0, or if we have conceded, keep it a 1-0, and then look, who knows what can happen. But no, I'm quite excited. It's our first visit to Turf Moor in what feels like since 2006, I think, maybe, when Rowan Vine scored in the last game of the season, I think. I might be wrong there, but I think that's what I remember. But look, It's our first away game season. Definitely exciting.
Everybody's going to be up for it. I think that's the thing. I wouldn't be disappointed with a point either. I think I'd take a point right now if you could give it to me.
But I feel like we're going there with no expectation. No. If we just go there and play how we did last season, and even last Saturday we were unlucky with a point. So, mate, it should be a good game. But thank you so much for coming on today, mate.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time and best of luck for the season. And I'm really looking forward to visiting Kenilworth Road later in the season. It's a new ground for me. So, yeah.
You'll love it. You'll love it. Thank you very much, mate.
Cheers. Thanks very much.
That was Tom from the No Name Never podcast. He's expecting it's going to be a tough game, which, I quite like. It's no more of his teams like Luton, is there? It's kind of they've seen what we've done last season and they've put a little bit of respect on our name.
I was about to say it's quite a respectful outlook on it. He's looking that we've still got a strong team, and I sort of agree with him. So, yeah, it's going to be fun. I like what he said. And
what he said about Vincent Kompany as well, we pretty much touched on it earlier, and it is that new style, that new era, and that new excitement around the club for Burnley, which I think will potentially work in their favour, especially it being their first home game, Vincent Kompany's first home game in charge. There's going to be this real buzz around Turf Moor, and if we can go there and spoil the party, that'd be brilliant.
It would be amazing, but then again, their party might be our demise on that day. If they play as quick and as fast as they did the other night, it's going to be a hard game. There's no easy games in this league. This one is especially harder because of where they've come from, because of their new manager. But, if we play well enough, we might come away with something.
Well, definitely looking forward to it. Batari said last week, let's start a score prediction league, and then obviously the following week he's not here to give us a prediction. But Dave, what are you saying?
Right. I'm going to really hope that we get a 1-1.
1-0? I'm going to be optimistic. I can't predict a defeat, can I? So I'm going to say 1-0 Luton. I'm going to say Colton Morris in like the 83rd minute.
Can we just make
in front of the away end?
Can we make that the 93rd minute so there's no chance of a comeback?
That'd be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to it. A long drive, but first away game of the season, and what better way to do it? Kompany's first game, and Burnley's first home game in the Championship in 6 years. So yeah, thanks you so much for listening today. If you want to check this out on YouTube, go do that. Search Owen the Town on YouTube, and thank you to the Burnley fans that have watched this today as well. We really appreciate that. So good luck tomorrow to Burnley. Hope to see you there. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.